I'm going to be installing some Offroadtown LED flush mount cube lights. It's not the best out there on the market by any means, but this will at least provide some light for my grandpa's backup lights. So ordered this kit off of Amazon. It was under 40 bucks, and it's actually, opening it up now, it's actually a pretty good kit. I mean, looks like pretty well-made material, extra cooling fins. I mean, just, it's really nice. It's got a little plastic coating on there, and I'll leave that on until everything's installed so I don't scratch it. Comes with a little template so you can cut out your hole and everything in the bumper, or wherever you decide to put it. The other nice feature about this, so we're going with the cube light. We're going to stay away from these instructions, so I'll just fold this in half here because this is all we really care about. So it provides you a 12-volt relay, which is nice because this one is a 40 amp. And if you're unfamiliar with relays, there are so many schematics and everything online that you can use to help you find out which wire goes where. But in this case, you have all these different wires going everywhere, but what's nice is in the harness, it's all right there for you, and you can only plug it in one way. The other thing you got to watch out for is these relays. If you're doing like your own kit, like what I did on my truck, I did an onboard air compressor setup. I bought relays that had soldered in wires on the prongs there. It's nice, it's convenient if you don't know which one's your power, which one's actually engage your switch, which one goes to ground. It's nice because you get color-coded wires. The downfall of that is if this ever goes out, which they do from time to time, they'll go out, you can just unplug this and replace it and plug it right back in to your harness, and you're up and going again. With the soldered in ones, you pretty much have to cut your wires out and rewire the whole thing. So this is really nice, really convenient. The other thing with this kit, which I was really pleased to see, is these connections. Let me get the foam out of here. Everything is watertight, water sealed. It's just really well done. And let me see if I could do this with one hand. So it just jams in there, and it doesn't make a click, but man, it's in there. No water's getting in there. You don't have to worry about water in there necessarily, but it's just a nice, good connection. Everything's sealed really nice. You got nice braided shielding over all your wires. So it's just a really nice kit. I wasn't looking forward to this little guy. So my whole intention, my plan for this kit was to tap into the existing power on the rear light assembly, but it looks like I might be throwing a switch in there now. Just because it's there in the kit, and I don't know, we'll see how it goes. You got nice battery connection terminal leads, also with a fuse right off of it. You always want to keep the fuse pretty close to the battery. Well, for multiple reasons, but the main reason is, so if you ever blow out a fuse or something ever goes wrong with your lights, this is one of the points you're going to be checking. The other point you're going to be checking is obviously where your relay plugs in. Those are the two potential first problems. But so what I'm going to do to start, I'm going to take my template here, and I'm going to start figuring out where I want these placed. So this is the back of Grandpa's Dodge truck. He's got all kinds of LED lights and everything on it already. I believe the truck's an 02. This is a fairly decent sized light, and as you can tell, there's not a whole lot of room to work with. So if I come over to the thicker portion of the bumper, they would look really good right here. So I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to put one right here. First, going to get it masked off with masking tape because I do not want a Sharpie all over his bumper. I'm going to keep it clean. I got this all masked off on both sides, and the reason for that, I'm sure I already told you, is I don't want to put Sharpie marks all over the bumper. But also, what I could do is put a piece of tape up here if I want to get this marked like really nice and professional and clean. What I'll do is I'll measure a certain measurement down and then pick a here somewhere and then, I don't know, do my best. A lot of people will just eyeball it because when you just glance at it, it looks straight enough. I think what I'll do is I'll get some templates marked up, and then the next stage will be to cut. And then also, before you start marking and everything else, and you know that you're going to want to put your light here, check behind the bumper and make sure that there is no wires or anything else behind the bumper, because that's the last thing you want to deal with is cutting through a panel and then all of a sudden you zipped a wire for something important. If you had a vehicle that had backup sensors, you know, the little pods here, then that is something you want to watch out for. So I'll go ahead and get these marked up and then we'll get ready for cutting. Alright, so I have everything marked up. I like the position. I could potentially go up a little bit higher, but I'm getting closer to the curvature of the bumper here. So I was trying to find the flattest spot just because the back end of these lights is obviously as flat as can be. It doesn't curve with the bumper or whatever you're sticking it to. So I'm looking for flatness, so that'll be a better seat. Like I said, I got both of them marked up. I'm just going to use my Makita. I have a bit on here that is pretty worn down. Usually the disc is quite a bit bigger, but this is good enough to get in there. Once again, I'm going to double, triple, quadruple check that there is nothing behind this bumper for me to cut into and actually damage. The other reason for the masking tape is when you're cutting, you're gonna get sparks, because this piece, it's got plastic, but then it goes into metal, and so I don't want that that spray to burn anything else that it hits. So I might actually put a little bit more plastic, and as you can see, I just barely didn't tape enough, but whatever. I just didn't want all of this on there. Other than that, I think we're ready to go. So I'll get these cut out and we'll see how it looks. All right, I just finished cutting my first hole and it was a bit of a pain. I finally got it to fit, but the problem is with this kit, so this being a cardboard template, so if I just place it on there, you can see it gets hung up. And if you cut that exact measurement, well, your light is going to be sticking that far out of your bumper. And that's what I've been battling, is trimming more out of the bumper to get this light assembly to fit. Because this will fit if you squeeze it down on that. But you can't really squeeze a light fixture through metal. I mean, you can with a big enough hammer, but I'm not going to do that. So before I cut my other hole, I might have to readjust my marks because that hole's not big enough. All right, so here's the end result of the cut, and luckily I marked when I did because this is a flat panel right here. If I would have gone any lower, I would have had some serious issues. So, show you what it looks like. If I could do it one-handed, hold on a second. So this guy, and then once it's tightened down, there it is. Of course, without that. But kind of a struggle to get there, but not too bad. The light is still fairly big of a flat surface area. So I have a little bit of a gap that's going to appear at the bottom. Still a larger flat area than the flatness of the bumper, so I will have a little bit of a gap at the bottom, but I don't see too many concerns with that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side to this state. We'll peel the tape, we'll start marking these holes. We'll pop our new holes and get them finally mounted. All right, so for drilling, these are the size screws that I'm using, because that's what came in the kit and doesn't look like cheap hardware. But so whenever you're drilling, big thing to remember is start off with a small bit so it doesn't travel when you're trying to drill your finishing hole. You don't want that to move around. So I don't know what this is. I think this is like a 5/32 bit. But yeah, start off small. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the fixture, in there, and then I'm just going to drill it in place. I'll do a little center punch to make sure that my tiny bit doesn't slip, and then I don't think I'm missing anything else, so I'll get to drilling and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. I just drilled it. Like I said, I just put this piece in place. I put it in there, and then I just punched through the plastic, then the metal, and tightened it up. It did squish the plastic a little bit flat because there is a gap, and I'll show you on this other one. So you can see there's a plastic layer and then the actual metal that's inside the bumper. You will get some squish in there, but not bad, really. That's what it looks like. I would say for, you know, less than 40 bucks, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to get the other one mounted, and then we're going to start wiring. Well, I ended up going a completely different route. I ended up not using the supplied harness. It's still a good harness by all means. I could use it for other things, but after talking with Grandpa about this, he didn't want to engage a switch. He didn't want to engage this switch every time he wanted to back up. He wanted to just be able to flip it in reverse and the lights were on. And I totally agree with that. So we went without it, and what I ended up doing is the two cube lights, drawings are terrible, the connection inside the wire, it had a positive and a negative, obviously. So I pretty much just cut the head off of it, right, just to access these two wires. Cut the shielding back a little bit. I ended up putting some of these butt connectors on there, and I'll just do a little sketch really quick. So we'll say positive, negative. So this I just ran right to ground. I just grounded it to the frame. I used a little eyelet connector with a self-tapping screw, just tapped right into the frame. This I ended up for the positive, I ended up going to his rear tail light assembly where the reverse light is. It has a positive and a negative going to it. Obviously I didn't do anything with the negative. I just took the positive off the pod light and tapped into the positive of the reverse light. So I was getting about 10.5 volts off the rear light. These are 12 volt LEDs. It will run off of 10. They were still bright. It just saved a lot of headache in the long run. And like I said, I will still get plenty of use out of this. I'll figure out something to use. I mean, that's still a great wiring harness, well made. That's what I ended up doing it, and it actually saved quite a bit of time because I didn't have to run the harness throughout the entire frame. Also, if you're going to be doing connections where you're cutting wire, doing these butt connectors or whatever, I strongly suggest you get one of these kits. These kits are awesome. It's the heat shrink tubing. You know, these are awesome for making everything watertight, but this is a great alternative. It's always best to not leave bare exposed wire, especially in the state that I live in where there's a lot of rain. You're just going to get longevity out of all of your electrical components. But ultimately, that's how it was done. So these ended up working out great, and I'll show you a video clip of how they look in the dark. Other than that, pretty simple stuff. Let me know in the comments if maybe I did something wrong, or how would you do it, or if there's anything else you'd like to see. All right, till next time. Thanks.